This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's that time of day, and I finally found what I was looking for, the Djuma Pride. Cubs, males, and lionesses all having a wonderful cuddle puddle. Is everyone ready? It's time for your live safari. It's a pleasure to be here with you all once again on a live safari through the African bush. I was looking for this pride all morning, so I have to say it took a while, but I finally got there and we managed to sit with our lovely Djuma Pride of Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Lauren. I do have Theo on camera today. It's a very hot afternoon here in Djuma, 24 degrees Celsius and 75 degrees Celsius. So of course, this is all happening right in front of you. We're going to be coming to you from 5 different locations across South Africa, 6 different game drive vehicles. And you must talk to us. Ask us anything you wish, and we'll try to answer them if we can. Send in all your comments and questions. You can use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, @FC on Twitch and YouTube, or kids, if you're watching, you're welcome to send all of your questions via email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv.
Good afternoon from andBeyond in Ngala, and we have got a special scene here too. We've got a male leopard feeding in the tree, and this is exactly the same male we had this morning. My name is Eric, and behind the camera, as always, is the trusty Owen. And so, like I said, we were here this morning, and it actually looked like he was moving off of the carcass because he climbed down and he started walking to the bank, and then he luckily is here this afternoon, so we get to watch him. And he is just feeding away. It sounds like there's very little meat left on the carcass, because he's just gnawing away at bones, and the only thing that you might be able to see is that droopy leg that's hanging down over there. And as we look at the ankle, that very black dot gives us a very good indication that it's an impala. Impalas are the only antelope species that has that very distinctive black spot behind its hoof. And so unfortunately he's in a position where we haven't seen his head yet, but at least we've got the majority of his body. And there will be a point where he decides to stop and maybe get some rest, and in that way maybe we'll get to see him move and maybe get to see his face nicely.
Well, we've got another animal doing some very cool moves. This elephant's going to have a delightful mud wallow. Look at that. Nice hot afternoon. Very dry everywhere, and this elephant is making the most of a gorgeous mud wallow. I am Mike Anderson. Behind the camera we've got Seb. Welcome to Eco-Training Pridelands Conservancy, and we are sitting at Ndlovu Dam, and as you can see behind, the elephants are just starting to arrive, and they are loving the edge of this waterhole. One of them in particular is just having the time of his life. It is a male elephant, a young male, and there's a whole herd around here, and I'm sure they'll be coming to join these bulls shortly. But for now, this one's going to make the most of a little privacy by slathering itself up in mud, which is of course very important because mud helps them to be protected from the heat and the sun, and also from biting insects. So that's really, really important. Sophie says it's like elephant yoga. It was definitely pulling off some interesting stretching techniques. I mean, it seems a lot more flexible than I am, that's for sure. It almost did the splits at one point. Look at this. It's going to do a little headstand What it's doing right now, what it's doing right now is it's using its tusks to dig up the mud and churn it up in order to be able to get it all over its body and make it nice and sloppy. That's interesting. Look at that. It's really having a good time. There's another younger elephant that's coming to also investigate. Also wants to see, how does this work? Look how it's spreading its legs like that. It's trying to balance itself. Remember, it's very muddy and slippery in there, and if this elephant falls over, it could hurt itself. So it's being very, very careful. Look how carefully it rubs with its trunk. The mud all over its face. Oh! Now I'm going to just... It's doing a bit of sun worship there. Oh, here comes the other elephant. Wants to come and say, how do we do this? This looks quite nice. Do I do it like this? Kicking the mud around. That'll also work, I suppose. Kerry, I think it is having a great time. I mean, who wouldn't if they had a lovely mud wallow on a hot day?
Good afternoon from this incredibly beautiful day here at Tswalu Kalahari. It is fantastic having you with me. My name's Dylan. Those of you who haven't met me, we're going to go on this beautiful journey of discovery in this incredibly ancient and fascinating land. I just wanted to start by showing you this is probably one of my favorites, and I've got many favorite trees on the reserve. This has got to be one of my top 5. This is the tallest tree that we have on Tswalu, certainly, and I've covered the area extensively. It's certainly the tallest one that I've ever seen. We've worked out the height of this tree is about 15 meters, 15 to 16 meters. And what makes it particularly interesting is the fact that this tree is not a species that's renowned for getting very tall in this area. This is called a shepherd's tree, Bosque albitranca. So it is quite remarkable that it's actually got to the size. This thing must be ancient. Two other interesting points, and there are just so many of these interesting things about it, but two of the things that are very significant is the canopy is almost completely covered with what we call mistletoe. It's these tiny little clumps of dark green foliage above me. It almost looks like the leaves of the actual tree, but it's not. This is mistletoe that's covered the canopy over here. I don't know how good that'll be for the tree in the long term if it's so dense, but it's certainly fun to stand underneath it. And the other thing, the second point there, a return trip says it looks like a very old tree, and it really, I'd imagine it is quite an old tree. We're actually going to get a really cool research project up and running very, very soon on trying to get the date or the ages of some of the trees on Tswalu. Notably, these ones, the shepherd's trees, and then also camel thorn trees, and maybe 1 or 2 fig trees. They'll be a little bit difficult. But the other interesting thing is all these weaver nests that are starting to form in this tree now as well, and they're going to start breaking the branches over time.
Just look at this. I've not seen this for quite a while. These elephants are stretching out on this mud. They are literally getting it everywhere. I remember it is a hot day, so these elephants would like to coat even behind their ears, get this nice coat. Look at that doing, kicking the mud all over their undersides, trying to loosen it up. Oh, that's amazing. Tell you what, I haven't gone through a mudding session like this for a while. This is amazing. So look, the big ones are now moving it out the way. Okay, my turn. Please give me a spot. I need that mud. And the impalas are just saying, we're going to get out of here. This is just too crazy for us. See how that mud is just going everywhere. Well, I'm glad we're parked on this side of the dam. We would get a good coating, hey Seb? These things are not, they're not messing around. All right. So look, this big elephant is now going to sit down in the mud. It's actually a good time for them to sit down in the mud because there's lots of other elephants around. Sometimes they get themselves a bit stuck, and when the other elephants are there, they can actually help them to get up. The mud's not too deep though, not too thick, so they're having a whale of a time. That's why they're staying in that shallow section. If they go deeper into the waterhole, oh my goodness, look at all the other elephants that have just turned up. That's fantastic. There's so many elephants at the waterhole now. This is just gorgeous. So you see all the bulls are on the right there, including some of the younger ones, and then on the left is all the family of females. And there's one elephant that's finished his mud wallowing and is now dusting, which is really important. And dusting helps them to exfoliate, shall we say. They cover themselves in dust, which helps to dry the mud up, and then they can rub themselves against a tree or a branch or a rock and loosen up any dead skin. Oh, that one's actually eating the dirt. That's also super important. Lots of minerals that they can find in that sand and soil, which helps them to fulfill any gaps in their diet. How amazing.
So we've just repositioned slightly, and literally just came back up the road that we were on a bit earlier, and we've got this really small gap, and at least we get to see his face and get to watch him eating a little bit. So he is crunching away at the back leg, and then the head of the impala is basically where his tail would be. So we are just about to come out of an ad break with the SABC, so I'll stop talking, but at least you get to watch this male leopard feed whilst I'm not talking. Welcome back to the SABC viewers. We are still with the same leopard. We've just repositioned slightly, and it's quite a cool spot because we get to see how this male leopard is feeding. And he's mostly feeding on the side of his jaw, which indicates that he's trying to get the last little bit of meat and a bit of the bone that he can crunch off of the leg of that impala. And so he has basically finished it by now. Sophie, yes, they will. Once they're done with it, they don't need it anymore. They'll jump down from the tree and they'll walk away. And what usually does happen is it will get found by other animals. So potentially another male or other leopard will come and scavenge off of the kill. But sometimes a bird will see it, and if a bird feeds on it, there's a good chance that it will drop down to the ground. And once it's down on the ground, oof, there's a big piece. I don't know if you saw that falling from his face, but that was a big bone that just dropped. Once it's on the ground like that, it will basically be eaten pretty much only by hyenas. He's been here for 3 days, and so I'm surprised there isn't any hyena lurking around. But maybe the hyenas realize that this carcass is so nice and secure that it's not going to fall down. And so the chances of those hyenas getting a big chunk of meat is quite slim.
Good afternoon and welcome to Buffelshoek Dam on the Djuma property, Greater Kruger. So far only a scuba Steve here and some terrapin moving about, but it is a lovely start, a nice sunny winter afternoon, and we are excited to see what we might find. My name is David Hancock, and on camera we have Craig, and we are going to be exploring with you this afternoon. There were quite a few terrapin on the water's edge. I can now only see one. Let's see if we can have a look there. Only one left. There was about Sheesh, must have been 6 or 8 when we got here. They all made a mad dash for the water. A little bit disturbed by our presence. But one lone terrapin there who's not afraid. Other than that, not too much. A little bit of bird life. But it is the beginning of a lovely afternoon safari.
Well, there's not much happening here too. Our lions are very lazy. They haven't moved much. They've been on our property for a few days now. And Djuma Game Reserve is the main sort of core area of the Nkuhuma's territory. Who knows what they got up to last night, but they are tired. So please do send in your questions. Don't forget, if there's anything you wish to know about lions or anything else in the African bush, send them in. At least we've got some playful ones over here. And the cubs, they're all different age groups. They're not all from the same mother. And they've suffered greatly from mange. And mange is actually prevalent throughout the animal kingdom. And it's a highly contagious skin disease that actually is spread by parasitic mites to the skin, which are little arachnids. And it's been reported in 10 orders, 27 families and 104 species. So it's very prevalent, but right here it's in our little cubs. And Felix, you're asking the lifespan of a lion. It's an interesting question because it's actually different for males and females. Normally, the females live longer because males are notorious for battling far too much testosterone, getting wounded, injured and not living as long. So it's normally around 10 to 14 years on average, maximum 18 years. But males are said to die around 10 years because, of course, they're just notorious for fighting and, well, not being very good at it. So these figures are, of course, the figures for the wild. So I'm going to continue to watch my lions snoozing and hopefully they'll get up for a drink soon.
So elephants do live a lot longer than lions, and I think it's because look how much fun they have. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine, and if that's anything to go by, these elephants are going to live forever. They're having the best time of their life. But in reality, they live to probably about 60, 65 years, depending on where it is. The drier the area, the shorter their lives. The more wet and moist the food that they can eat, the longer they'll live, because it's all about their teeth. But this is incredible. So the whole herd mud-wallowed at the same time, and now they're all going to do a dust bathing session. Look at that. It's incredible. There are literally so many elephants. The dust flying off the dam here is incredible. It looks like, you know, when you're in a desert and there's an animal moving and all the dust just streams across. Oh, wow. Have you ever seen anything quite like this before? Amazing. So this is all part of good personal hygiene if you're an elephant. Wow. So they literally have dusted up that area so much that all the soil there is becoming soft and fine. It's blowing in the wind. Oh, wow. And the big elephant bulls, or I mean, actually the big matriarchs are now walking over to them through the dust. Looks incredible. Look at this young ones. So I often think, you know, they could achieve the goal of covering themselves in dust just by throwing it all over themselves. There's no need for them to roll around in the dirt, except that it just looks fun. I think elephants are one of the few animals that really know how to have fun. And there's no doubt about it. This is just a fun experience for them. That there, with the broken ear, I think is the matriarch. Jane is asking, if elephants sleep, do they sleep standing up or lying down? Well, Jane, they can do both, actually. If they're just having a short nap, they might just plant their feet slightly wide, and then you'll literally see their head sag down and the trunk rest on the ground, and they can stay like that for 10-15 minutes. But if they're going to have a deep sleep, usually only if there's lots of elephants around and they feel safe, they will literally lie themselves flat on the ground. It looks quite uncomfortable, actually, because they're such big animals, and it's not easy for them to get up. But if they find a slope like what they're on there, they can actually lie themselves and get up quite easily. Many times we find elephants in the early mornings or late at night lying down on termite mounds or on the sides of termite mounds to have a nice deep sleep. And I tell you from experience, when an elephant falls into a deep sleep, they snore so loudly. I used to stay in a camp where one particular elephant bull would go and sleep on a termite mound right near where my tent was. And his deep snoring rumbles used to keep me up. Rifki, there are a lot of young elephants here. A lot of them are males. As you've probably been able to see, when they get excited, they do extend out the penile sheath, so you'll be able to see that. But there are also young females here. In fact, there are no big bulls in this group, so most of these elephants are females and their youngsters, including the calves, which are males. So the male elephants, when they get larger and older, around their middle years, their middle teens, they get pushed out of the group because they're too big and strong and they cause trouble for the younger elephants, and the mothers don't like that. So that's actually quite a big bull. Not huge, but that's a bull over there in the middle. So he might be following the herd, hoping for some mating opportunities. But he's not as big as he could get just yet. But there are definitely some young males in that group, which is awesome. I don't know, they're all starting to move their way on the other side of the dam, which is what they typically do. It's absolutely typical behavior. The question is this typical behavior for elephants? Absolutely. On hot days like this, they will mud themselves and dust bathe. Look at that one. I'm going to lie down. I'm tired. That was too much hard work. There you go, you see? There's an elephant having a little rest. Just getting its head down for a moment. There's another young male there. You can tell. Amazing. So these elephants are all going to move in a northerly direction from the dam. So now it's just a couple of the bulls, the youngish bulls left. They're probably trailing the herd. They were with them this morning. They're usually slightly separate from the females and the youngsters, but yeah, at waterholes like this, they'll all come together and socialize and dust bathe. Elephants are incredibly social creatures, so they need to spend a lot of time together in order to keep their bonds nice and strong. Young males will bond with the older males that they hang out with, and the females and the youngsters, of course, will stay together for a long time, so they also bond. And many of the other herds in this area will be related females, so they'll maybe not spend all the time together, but when they come to a waterhole like this, it's a good opportunity for them to catch up with each other, share the latest gossip. They do say elephants have very long memories. It's good for them to socialize and keep up those bonds. Oh, little look over the shoulder. Did you get that? Yes, we did. You can go now. So they often look over their shoulder like that just to check if anything is behind them, especially when they've been distracted for a long time. Now they look like they're going to move off. Goodbye, elephants. Maybe a wry look at the water to say, okay, when next will I see you again?
So he is, I think he's still feeding, but this time he's just taken a seat, and so he's sat down, and it looks like he's just found a good comfortable position to carry on grooming himself. So that's his tail sticking out at the branch at the bottom, and we might even see his foot up and right. Yeah, so we will be are back with this young male leopard at Ngala, to all the SABC viewers. He has just found a spot to get a little bit more relaxed and comfortable. Views of the face, of his face that we had, don't seem to be as good anymore, so we might try and reposition. But I think it's so cool, and if you just think about how long that tail is, his body is, and his face is where the carcass is and where the leg is, and then the body extends all the way down. You can even see his back left leg hanging down, and then that tail extends by another almost 30 centimeters below him. And so for such a large species who lives in the trees a lot of the time, that tail's quite important for balancing and for when they're moving from one branch to another. See, he looks uncomfortable. I think he is trying to get a better spot. Oh, is he coming down? I think he is. He might be coming down, or he could just be going to a different branch. Yeah, there we go. Watch, he's going to jump down. Let's just see. I love how that tail's just resting in the V. Here he comes. Yeah, it'll be very cool if he comes down this way. This morning he jumped straight down from where he is. So it'll be lovely to see him come down this really nice V. He's going the same way again. Listen to the birds' alarm calling, the grey go-away birds. Come on. There he goes. Awesome. So he did this exact same thing this morning, and we thought he was definitely going to go and leave the carcass, but I think what he ended up doing is just drop down, go to the loo, and then he made his way back up. So we'll stick around this area and wait for him to come back to the carcass.
It's hard to resist some delicious food. Lions can actually climb trees as well, but they're not as elegant at it. They're very similar to leopards, closely related of course, but leopards are definitely along the sort of natural selection, the ones that have been selected and adapted to climb trees. Raynand, you're asking at what age do cubs start to hunt? It's a process. So normally the sort of cubs rely very, very heavily on milk for the first 6 weeks, and it's quite rare to see a cub out with the den at 6 weeks. After the 6 weeks mark, they start to become a little bit more mobile. They're starting to use those muscles. They're starting to play with one another, wrestle, rumble and tumble. And anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks onwards, they can start to sample meat. They'll still be drinking milk from mum, but it's important that they also get meat into their system so that their body understands how to handle meat, and their immune systems can also be ready to tackle meat. So they won't be ready to quite execute hunts on their own at 6 weeks old, but they will definitely try to start sampling meat. To chew on bones is also very important for the young ones to sort of exercise those jaws and start to learn how to crunch and munch on all sorts of delicious delicacies out here in the bush. It's not really until 3 weeks old, 1 month, do the teeth erupt. And the canines come first, and then the back sort of teeth come a little bit later. Kimberly, you're asking, are the males there? Yes, Mohawk is here, but unfortunately from the position that we are in right now, we can't see him. I've not seen Blondie, but I'm going to guess that he's here. The Avoca Male Coalition, or at least 2 of the males from the Avoca Coalition, are normally never too far away. Oh, apparently there's a leopard not too far away from us. That's very interesting. That's why my gain drive radio is beeping in my ear. Hopefully, there's not going to be any sort of running here. Leopards do not want to cross the paths of lions, that's for sure. So I'm going to investigate this just a little bit further and find out exactly where that leopard is.
After a few difficult views of not seeing the whole leopard in that very dense tree, he is absolutely spoiling us now. So he is lying on the bank of the Timavati in some shade, and he's spending a lot of time cleaning. It's amazing, they clean exactly the same as a domestic cat does. And just look at how much effort he's putting in just to try and make sure he's as clean as possible. So Tammy, on average, a leopard will feed probably between 3 to 4 days. I mean, they can sometimes go a lot longer, probably between a week and a half to 2 weeks without food, but that's starting to get quite extreme. And then they could also feed once a day, depending on what they catch. So a nice big impala like this will keep him going for at least 3 or 4 days, feeding on it, and then probably another couple of days after. And so, I mean, there's the tree in the background that we can see, that really nice dense canopy that he's got his carcass in. And so, I mean, he will happily just digest his food for the next day or two before he's going to really look for an opportunity to hunt. Tammy, for sure, they do have fear for different animals, and it tends to be the other predators that are bigger than them, and those would be hyena and lion particularly. If there are wild dogs in a pack, then a leopard would definitely be wary of them. And I mean, they're all fighting for the same food source essentially, and so they are in constant competition with one another. And so a male leopard like this, if he comes into contact with the pride of lions will consider him a threat in their territory, and they'll try and chase him away. And so that's one of the reasons why they take the kills up into the trees like that, to protect them from the lions, from the hyenas, from the wild dogs, so that they've got all the spoils to themselves. If his carcass was still on the ground, he won't have the strength to defend it from a hyena. An hyena will run in and steal it, and that will be the last time that this male leopard will ever feed on that particular impala carcass. I mean, so as he's cleaning himself, and we've got such a nice view of his face, we can't, I mean, if we look very closely around his paw or around the side of his face, there is not a drop of blood around him. And so it's amazing that he's spending so much time cleaning on what already looks like clean skin.
Copy, about to go live. Lions also spend so much time grooming each other. Allo grooming is really important in lion prides. Now, not only is it probably pleasurable for them, it's also efficient. If they've got anything attached to them, or any ticks or mites or bits of flesh, then at least they can assist one another. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. It also helps reinforce those sort of cohesive bonds that a pride needs. They will fight over food, so it's really important that otherwise they have very sort of strong bonds. The bonds are very tender that I have witnessed between lionesses. They just really appear to enjoy one another's company. The lionesses, that is. I can't say the same for the male lions, I'm afraid. The lionesses don't always seem to enjoy their company, which is why they seem to stay a little bit further away. So I don't think my lions are going anywhere, neither am I, but we'll be back very shortly. Just giving you a moment to enjoy these lions, our regular internet viewers. A moment of silence to enjoy watching them sleeping.
So I'm doing like a whole tree thing this afternoon, it seems, but I really wanted to show you this big baby over here. So that other one was an indigenous one that we saw, and you know, it's all very well painting the beautiful side of conservation and, you know, the success stories, but sometimes you do need to focus on the challenges that we face in this industry. One of them being alien plants, particularly what we call alien invasive species. Now, this magnificent tree, and it really is a magnificent tree. I have nothing against the tree, except my body. But this is called a southwest thorn, or a Zuidwestdoring, commonly known in America. It's actually called a mesquite. So it's a very well-known tree over there. It is a fantastic source of firewood, super palatable, so livestock love it. The seed pods, the leaves, game go for it heavily as well. And these trees were actually introduced into these areas, these really arid areas. They do brilliantly in arid areas many years ago as fodder for livestock and shade and timber, you know, for building and for firewood. The problem with these trees is that they have a phenomenal reproduction rate. This tree, this one individual, actually this is a bad example, and I'll tell you why just now, but one tree of this size can be putting out tens of thousands of seed pods every season, and they are typically very well adapted, like say for arid areas, but along drainage lines. So there are areas in South Africa that are absolutely infested with this species of tree, and the problem is it's just this small low growth stuff that nothing can get inside it. These thickets are so dense, it's not large enough to actually make any use of the timber. So these trees are actually quite an interesting example. There's a number of them over here, but these are actually sterile, these particular ones, and that's why you don't get any kind of regrowth over here. And Tswalu, we have a aggressive policy of alien plant eradication. So, and there's very few and very isolated areas on the reserve that we're still working on. So this is just, I just wanted to give you some idea that it's not just about the big and hairies and all the beautiful indigenous things. We also have challenges with alien plants.
He's just turned around, so now he's giving us the 360-degree view of him. And it looks like for now he's stopped cleaning himself. And there's a he must have come down here because there's such a beautiful breeze that's getting funneled down this river, and so it's really just helping keep him cool. He's in a really nice shady spot there. And so he's probably not done with the carcass yet, but he just wanted a break. But I mean, I believe you're having quite an interesting conversation with Dylan, and this tree that this leopard's got a kill in is quite interesting. It's called a Natal mahogany tree, and it's evergreen most of the time, so it has its leaves throughout the whole year. And I've noticed literally over the last couple of days that the majority of the leaves have started to wither, and we're not entirely sure what it's from. It hasn't been ring-barked, and so I'm sure the nutrients coming up haven't changed. And Owen suggested that it could have been from one of the very cold spells that we had on Ngala that might have just killed the very ends of the tree's leaves and the branches, and hopefully it will start regrowing again. But it is such a beautiful tree, and it provides such good shade. I mean, I've had countless coffee breaks with guests under this tree, so I hope that it will still survive this winter. And then also, to go back to the tree, just that browsing line that it has. So if you look at it, it almost has got this mushroom shape where about 2 meters from the ground, there's just a solid straight line that goes across the whole tree. And that's basically as far as the kudus can reach up to feed it. And so it's been browsed completely by kudu. See, look, this male leopard is up now. I wonder if he's going to go back to his tree after that quick little rest. And he climbed down. He's moving into the bush, actually. He did this morning, and we expected him to come down to the river. We came back down to look for him, and then he had disappeared. Maybe he's just lying down there or going to the loo. I've lost him for now, but I can see the movement, yes, on the left now. It's incredible. It just takes a couple of blades of grass and some trees, and he's completely disappeared.
Talking of camouflage, look at my cats. Flat as pancakes, blending into the winter grass. Winter takes on a completely different colour scheme than summer out here. Winter is very monotonous, and in terms of photography, summer's definitely better. It's bright, it's green, it's lush. Jensen, I actually mentioned this just earlier, and I have seen Mohawk already. We're going to move around in just a moment to show you, but I've not seen Blondie. I imagine Blondie will be here, but I just don't know exactly where. But we're going to reverse in just a little bit to show you all Mohawk, who I'm sure is snoozing just as hard as this lot here. But lions are nocturnal. That's what we sometimes forget when we call them the lazy cats, because they're very active during the night. They hunt during the night. They feed during the night. They walk great distances, scent mark, call, territorial patrol, play. And that eats a lot of their energy budget. And that's why they need to recuperate by sleeping all day long. And it's obviously very hot right now. Not as hot as it would be in summer, but it's definitely more advantageous to just sleep during the day, snooze, get a little bit of vitamin D from the sun, and then become active as soon as that sun starts to go down. And I've been trying to find examples of the mange on the cubs, but unfortunately, I just can't see any patches to show you right now. They've all got heavy scarring and hair loss. So mange won't actually kill the animals, but what it will do is the mites sort of burrow under the animal's skin. They produce lesions, and the lesions can get infected over time, which spreads, infection spreads, animal loses the hair, creates scarring, the animal will become dehydrated, potentially develop hypothermia, and it can result in death, believe it or not. The human equivalent is scabies, if you've ever heard of that. It's the same arachnid. And the full name is sarcoptic mange. And I really, really hope these cubs here bounce back. I think they will, because this summer's definitely not been as harsh as other summers. I mean winter, sorry, I'm in the wrong season. The winter's definitely not harsh. There's plenty of water still around, and a lot of the vegetation is still lush. And these little cubbies will be absolutely fine. The vegetation being lush, what that means is the herbivores that these carnivores eat will be fit and healthy, especially the buffalo. But we're not too far away from a water hole, and I think because these lions have been sleeping in the sun all day, they were here in the morning, I just couldn't find them, and I think they're probably going to get up to drink. It's important that they also stay hydrated. Lions can get hydrated from the blood of their kill, but it's been about 2-3 days now since they've probably had some blood from that buffalo. So I'm really hoping that they will get up and they'll all head down for a delicious drink of water. Well, hello, Lioness. I'm very glad you decided to turn around and say hi to everyone. You look rather comfortable. They love to be touching one another. They like to be in close contact with one another. They've either got a paw or a leg, always touching. So I'm going to reverse to give you all a view of that male. We're going to take a short break. Please don't go anywhere. So we are now just going to move around to try and give you all a view of Mr. Mohawk. They all wake up now. I'm just going to do this really, really slowly because there's lions everywhere. And branches. Now he's hiding in the shade somewhere, away from the ladies, as usual. They follow the lionesses, but they always tend to keep their distance. They know their place. Is that him over there? Yes, I see a head popping up. Well, hello. This is not going to be easy to navigate, but let's try. Okay, we're just going to, I'm not sure if we can get a view from here. Can you work with this, Theo? It's probably going to pop his head back down, but this is Mohawk. I think it would actually be better if we go round to get his face. Everybody's snoozing here in Djuma Game Reserve. This is a male lion. Yes, his name is Mohawk, from the Avoca coalition of males, who reside over the Ngahoma Pride. They are fierce and dominant and very large, but you may not see that right now because he's flat. He's about maybe 15 metres away from the rest of the pride. He's obviously found himself a little spot of shade. We are going to go around in just a moment. I just want to do it really, really carefully. Mohawk is a interesting character. He has a spiky tuft of hair on the top of his head, hence the name Mohawk. And he's clearly snoozing. I don't see the other male yet, but I'm going to look because I really do believe that the other male is somewhere. They're regularly found together as a duo, and the third member of the coalition actually resides over the other pride called the Talamati Pride. Male lion coalitions will be dominant over numerous prides in the area. It's more advantageous for them to mate with different prides within their territory. So I do promise that this is a lion. I'm going to head round and hopefully the next time you see us, you'll see his face.
Right, well, we've found something very awesome. There's a flaky barked acacia, well, it used to be called an acacia, now it's called a Vachellia exuvialis, and it's got some gum that's exuding out of it. And this gum is quite nutritious and quite sugary, and I actually wonder if maybe it wasn't something that was made on purpose by an animal called a bush baby, which looks like this. I don't know if you've ever seen a bush baby before on any of your safaris, but bush babies come out at night, and they love to feed on the gum from these ex-acacia trees. And that stuff is super highly nutritious, full of sugars, very full of energy. Now, they don't only eat gum, they also eat insects, which is super cool. And what I find amazing is that these animals actually leap from tree to tree, and they have specific trees that they like to feed off of. And the acacias are one of them, or what were they called, the acacias. And they feed on it, and they get to know that there's gum coming out, and they'll come and visit the tree every day. Now, what I'd like to do is actually try a bit of this gum to see if it's actually tasty. Now, I know that many animals... Is that better? Okay, no problem. Now, if I break a small piece off here, I can tell you. It is incredibly sticky. Yeah, I might be working this out of my teeth for a little while. But not entirely unpleasant, to be honest. It kind of has a sugary taste, but very muted. In fact, it kind of tastes a little bit like dirt. Maybe it's a bit dusty, I'm not sure if the elephant's dust bathing was anything to go by. But it's definitely got texture to it and a definite flavor. So yeah, animals will definitely be feeding on this, especially the bush babies, which is really great. And now the thorns, which you can see, I don't know if you can see these hectic thorns that are all over this tree. These protect it from being over-browsed. And in fact, if it didn't have that, animals like elephants and giraffes and kudus would completely destroy them because there's nutritious leaves. That's why they have thorns, because the leaves are so nutritious. Now, what's amazing is that these thorns used to be used in the past by traditional peoples of southern Africa as ways of stitching wounds. So you can see I've actually got a small scar here, and what they would have done is push the thorn through both sides of the flesh and pinch it together, and that would hold the wound together. Not sure if I'd use that today though.
So one interesting thing that we found here, and I don't know why I keep saying one interesting, because everything's interesting, but anyway, are these beautiful little scales. I'm just going to put this one flat on the bench in the vehicle over here so you can actually see it nice and clearly. So that is a scale from a tortoise. Now, it's a well-known animal to many people. And this particular species is called a leopard tortoise because of its coloration. It's also known as a mountain tortoise. In Afrikaans, they call it a berg skilpad. Berg is a mountain. So a mountain, and that's referring to the size of it. I mean, they get really, really big, really, really old, these ones. But what is interesting is, you see how that, okay, this particular one, so this is actually from the back of the tortoise, just above the backside. the back of the backside. But what I wanted to show you, you see it's got this hollow inside it. Okay, and how that works is these scales actually fit over the shell. So when we see a tortoise's shell, it's actually a modified spine. Okay, so the shell itself is bone, and then it's just covered in these scales. And these scales, again, keratin. Same old that we know very well. Those of you who eat your nails, yeah, or other things. But anyway, that's quite cool, eh? So when they died, this one I have no idea. I try to find the skeleton, to show you, but I can't find any trace of it. So I'm assuming jackals, hyenas, those kind of scavengers have actually made off with it long ago. And this isn't fresh, but it's very pretty. I mean, look at that as a camouflage mechanism. And to age these, you'll notice it's got all these lines on it, these little rings. So some people have said, oh, maybe you could just count the rings and age the tortoise. Apparently, it doesn't work that way. But I'm sure there must be, apart from having a captive one that okay, this is the age that it hatched, and but I'm sure there'll be a way to date these things. There's another species related to having these rings, is called a beautiful. It's this big bulb underground with these massive pink flowers. I'll show you one at some point as well.
Here, very camouflage, we're going to show you our male lion mohawk. Just look at this. Now that is his face. You see that? Look at those eyes just watching us. He's in a deep slumber, but he's watching us just out of the corner there, keeping his eye on all of you viewers. So I didn't manage to find Blondie, everyone, I'm sorry, but of course we'll stay around a little bit longer to try and locate him. So it has came to that time, the end of the live safari, I'm afraid, but please do consider joining us. You just need to go onto the internet and type in WildEarth, and you'll be able to follow the rest of the drive, which continues on for another magical 2 hours. And hopefully it will be magical. There's a leopard nearby as well, which is very, very exciting. I think David is going to check out the leopard. So thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's a pleasure as always. We do hope to see you back again, same time on Monday. Here in the sunshine, I'm not complaining. My eye is, but I'm not. My name is Lauren. I have Theo on camera, and over here is the Nkuhumas, who we have been sitting with for about the past hour. So sadly, we are going to pull out. We're going to allow other people to come in and see the lions, but they're sleeping anyway. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And my plan is to, well, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to take a bumble and see what else we can see. But of course, it's your live safari. Please do talk to us. Send in lovely comments and all the questions that you may have at FC. Yes, at FC on the YouTube chat stream or Twitter, or hashtag wilds. I think I just got that all wrong. Hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. That's the right one, Lauren. I've clearly been in the sun far too long. 24 degrees Celsius for winter. That's hot. Now, Shadulu is not too far away, which is very exciting. We've not seen leopards the past few days. So David is on the way to Shadulu, and I think I'm going to go and check out a waterhole. The Nkohumas will not be going anywhere for now, but I will come back. I promise we will come back. I think once it gets a little bit cooler, they're going to start to move. Twin Dams is where I think they're going to move to. But other vehicles would like to get into the sighting, so it's important that everybody gets their turn. WildEarth pulling out of the Nkohuma sighting, open lock. There you go, done my part. So they have been around the whole day, and we circled and we circled and we circled the area this morning and could not find them. We could hear them, couldn't see a single track, and that's most likely because they've walked through the vegetation. They haven't walked on the roads. Or they flew. Who knows? But either way, they didn't walk on the roads, and that's why we couldn't find them. They came right through the Mulwati and stationed themselves there. They're not looking as full as they used to, which means I imagine they may get hungry again. I'm just going to pull over for this vehicle here and let them pass. Say my jolly good afternoons to them all. Hi! So we're going to bumble south, see what we can see down there, and hopefully there'll be some animals at the waterhole.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve with myself, Clive, and Marcel behind the camera. And we've again come quite far this afternoon and come across Ngala Pride. Now, someone had come out this morning to look for them and had found them, and they were actually eating a baby giraffe that they had caught last night. And now that giraffe is very much finished, and we just have some very, very full and sleepy lions. So if you remember yesterday afternoon, they were very, very active, playing and jumping and chasing those rhinos, which was probably one of my favorite sightings for a very long time. Incredible for those of you who watched, and if you didn't, maybe go back and have a watch. But they were really, really active yesterday afternoon. You could see the young males in this pride were like pestering the adults to go off hunting. And it looks like their pestering worked. They obviously managed to find a mother and a very small giraffe. And they managed to bring that down. And that has fed them very, very well during the night and today as well. You'll see how they've just chosen this one small little patch of shade that they're in now. Obviously just to get out of the midday heat. But it's already 4 o'clock now, so it's already starting to cool down ever so slightly. And maybe they won't need to be in the grass for too much longer. They're lying so flat down that we can't even see which lion is which. The one closest to us lifted its head up a bit earlier, and I noticed that it was one of the adult females, so the 5 young males must be kind of scattered around her there. There's a very nice breeze today as well. You can see that one that's slightly further away has its legs up in the air a little bit, maybe getting a bit of that cool breeze on his belly, helping to digest some of that meat. Looks like a very comfortable spot they've chosen here as well. Nice soft grass to lie in. As I say, that little bit of shade keeping them cool. Looks like a very nice spot. Now, when we first got here, someone said they couldn't even see the carcass anymore. They'd obviously finished it. But they did say there were some legs lying around of the young giraffe, which I haven't managed to see yet. But they said it must have been a very, very small one. Which is sad for the giraffe, but, you know, it's good for the lions. They have to eat as well. Especially these little 5 growing young males. They need to be able to eat to get big and strong and eventually be able to fight off other males. So this is a good start for them. I think the only movement we're seeing out of them, and probably the only movement we'll see out of them this afternoon, is just this little ear flick every now and then. Just chasing away a few flies that might be bothering them. Right, we're going to probably carry on with our drive and leave these lions to carry on sleeping. And we'll see what else we can find this afternoon.
Well, we managed to just get on lock with Shidulu. And now she is disappearing as you came to us. Let me see if I can quickly get another look at her. She's just around the other side of this vehicle to the left. I get a quick glimpse of her through the grass there. There she is. She's been moving quite a bit. Been a little bit tough to keep up with her, and I think if she goes down to that drainage line, might struggle to get another look. But so awesome to see Shidulu. I was so excited to see a leopard. It was a bit of a dry spell here, I believe. Lauren and I even had a little bit of a competition going to see who was going to get to see the first one. Lazy Dynamic, you've asked why don't leopards form prides like lions do? And it's just not the way their social structure is designed. Leopards are not social predators like lions. They rely instead on their stealth to hunt. So they'll use their stealth to secretly creep up on perhaps an unsuspecting impala and pounce upon it. Whereas lion will use the pride to hunt and get their food, and of course to protect their territories. They rely very heavily on each other, whereas leopard are far more adept at being solitary. Generally, you only see leopard together when it's a mother and a cub, or perhaps a mating pair. But other than that, they function very well on their own. But also, interestingly, you see a bit of different behavior in leopard. Whereas you might see a lion tussling with a hyena over food, or more apt to fight, a leopard will almost always rather give up its meal and live to hunt another day because they cannot afford to get injured. I've even seen large male leopard giving up their prey to a seemingly young, not as strong hyena because they don't even want to risk the fight. They don't want to risk getting hurt because they won't have other leopard to rely on to hunt for them. So it is interesting, an interesting question and an interesting observation. That's one thing I do love about leopard though. Their solitary nature, their stealth. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer as we discuss that. Ian, you've asked, are leopard moody? And moody, I wouldn't say so emotional as we are, perhaps primates, but they will definitely display hunger or anger, perhaps fright or fear or aggression. And in that sense, they definitely, I suppose, can be moody. But they're not gonna wake up on the wrong side of the bed, so to speak, I don't think. She's in some very thick grass, so you might just get the top of her ears there. So well camouflaged, so well hidden. Those rosettes on her fur just hide her so well. And now she looks like she's put her head down. I can't even see anything anymore. Can you see anything, Craig? There she is. She gave us the slip in the long grass. She started moving and we didn't even see her. That's how well camouflaged they are. It's amazing to see a leopard crouching in the grass and a whole herd of unsuspecting impalas slowly feeding towards her without even noticing her. They really do rely on that incredible camouflage. Seenak, you've asked, is the leopard stalking anything? And no, it's not. It's just been moving. Perhaps opportunistic, but not stalking anything now. Moving, laying down in the shade, looking, listening. Always in an opportunistic manner though. If an unsuspecting steenbok or something like that was to cross its path, then I'm sure it'll go into stalk mode, but for now, just watching and listening. Oh, what a lovely afternoon game drive. This has just been great. I'm so excited we got to see a leopard.
I'm sure David is excited to see a leopard. We had a bit of a challenge going on. Who could find spots first? So David has one, which means I have to do 10 laps of quarantine without stopping, which is rather unfortunate. And off we go. Brown snake eagle, I think. Bright yellow eyes. No feathers going down the legs. Okay, and off he flies. So I'm going to check around Tswalu and see if there's any thirsty animals.
Believe it or not, we've just found 2 more Cokie Franklins. And I promise there's somewhere in the grass there's one moving. So this is crazy. I mean, we went from not seeing them at all to seeing two sightings at least within 4 days of one another. And these two are being very, very obliging. There's a male and a female here, and they both look like they're adults. That one in frame has got a black bib with a white throat. That's the female. And the male, who is somewhere in this grassland, has got a much more defined orange head. And this is a bird, usually, I promise, we just see it scampering across the road, or we hear it calling in the distance, and we don't see it too often at all. So to see it out and about like this is also very, very cool. When we saw them last, it was a group of 8 of them, and it was one adult male with a couple of sub-adult males and one sub-adult female. And I was trying to read up a little bit about their behavior to figure out what was going on, and it does seem like they're monogamous. So the male and the female will stick together. So we're not entirely sure why that male or the female was away from the little group. But the interesting thing about them is that they are one of the most abundant or the most widespread of the francolin species in the whole of Africa. And so they occur all the way up to the northern parts of Sudan and all the way south down into South Africa. But I couldn't find too much information about them, and I think it's just because of their behavior. And there's the male now. And it's quite difficult for you to study them if you can't find them, and this is what they tend to do, is they scurry along these open patches until they feel comfortable using their really nice camouflage in the long grass. So that was it, and the male seems like he's moving in the direction of the female. And just in case you didn't get a good view of it, just a quick little look to see. You still got them. Oh, there we go. Well done. Yeah, it's always a difficult one to capture and see like this. And so it will spend most of its time foraging in these grasslands, moving from dung scrap to dung scrap, looking for little seeds and little grubs that it will feed on. And so I just wanted to quickly show you in case you didn't get too good of a view. And this is it here, this one, the top bird here. And so that's the female with the black bib and the white throat. And then this is the male with a very zebra-like striping on the breast and the chest. And then that very distinctive orangey head over there, the Koki francolin. So we are not too far away from that big waterhole that we find in this area. So we are going to quickly go and have a look to see what's out and about there. And then we might head on towards those lines we had this morning to see if they're active.
Well, we are just driving along the drainage line that goes towards Leopard Dam. Well, it comes from Leopard Dam, actually. No, it goes towards, because the water flows that way. We're looking for any signs of cats, because we haven't seen a leopard for a few days now, or maybe a bit longer. There goes an impala running for its life. I think it's just going to the rest of its herd. But we're struggling because there's just so much elephant activity. Everywhere we look, I don't know if it's easy to see, but along the road there's just elephant tracks for days. And so we're literally just driving along looking for any signs that maybe a leopard killed something and dragged it across the road. But you can see there all along either side of the vehicle tracks, there's just elephant tracks. Now, I just drove there and reversed a little bit, but as we drive down the road there's just so much of it that it makes it very, very difficult for us to actually spot any cat tracks. But we're driving with the sun slightly in our face, which makes it difficult maybe to see animals ahead of us, but it makes it much easier to spot tracks, which is what we're hoping for right now. And then maybe silhouettes if there's a cat in a tree, which would be really great. We haven't seen a leopard for a few days now, and we're really wondering where Pixie Pan female has gone, where she might have gotten off to. Shimungwe male and that other young male we haven't seen for a while too. Sugar's asking whether a leopard's tail is as long as its body, and it is very long and very heavy as well. I'm not sure if it's quite as long as its body, but it's definitely close to the length of its body. And now the reason for that is because when they go up into trees, they need that heavy tail as a counterweight to make sure that they can move up and down the trees swiftly and along those branches without falling or slipping or hurting themselves. Much like cheetahs, cheetahs' tails are also incredibly long and actually surprisingly heavy, because when they are running at high speed and they turn their body one way or the other, they'd actually lose control if they didn't have a counterweight. So that's what these big cats use their tails for. Very, very important. And it also just looks great. I don't know if you've seen the end of a leopard's tail has got this white patch on it, and they often use that as a sign to the prey animals to say, oh, you know what, I'm not hunting you right now, you can stop alarm calling, or maybe for the young ones to follow through the grass. A lot of different reasons that the leopards will have a long tail. And they even use it for the youngsters to play. You know, often when the young ones are practicing their pouncing and hunting skills, they'll flick that tail around, which is very enticing for those young ones to jump all around it. No tracks and signs yet. There is something really interesting over here which I can show you. I don't know how well it will come out on the camera, but I want to look at this tree that's fallen over here. For a start, there's lots of termite activity all over it. And secondly, it's really interesting, I think there's been lots of woodpecker activity as well. Can you see some of these holes here? So these are mostly done by termites, but when the hole is enlarged like this, it's most likely because something like a wood-boring beetle was living in there, and it had made I can actually see a bit of a wooden, like a mud cocoon nest in there. And what happens is a woodpecker will come along and tap with its beak, feeling for wherever there's hollows. And then it will enlarge the hole and then use a barbed tongue to scoop out the grub or larvae or whatever it was in there. So dead wood like this is a soft tree. This looks like it was probably a marula, which is a very soft wood, and it's covered in these holes, which means there's been a lot of insect activity all over it. And so woodpeckers would love trees like this. You can even see, I don't know, Seb, if I've come too close here, but inside here, and the whole hollow of this tree, it's all coming away from termite activity. So you can see the termites have actually eaten the whole way up into this tree, and probably just a strong wind or an elephant coming along, just brushing against it, made this whole thing topple. And now because it's hollow, there'll be lots of animals that can actually live in there, which is fantastic. Really cool. Patrick is asking if termites prefer certain trees, and Patrick, you're absolutely correct. They do prefer certain trees. What they want are trees that are softwoods. Hardwood trees like leadwoods would not be easily digested by the termites. Their mouth parts are not strong enough to really cut away at them. That's why they stay standing for hundreds and hundreds of years. Marula trees like this, once they die, it's a very soft wood, and so it will only be a few years before this tree is completely consumed by termites. Now I can see that there's no termites in this part right now, but this looks like wood. But if I break that away, there's actually no wood at all left here. It's just completely been eaten away by termites. Okay? So they've covered it in the dirt in order to protect themselves from the sun. So all this part here, they were busy feeding on it, and once they feed on it and they expose it to the outside, they'll actually need to cover that again with a mud layer in order that the sun doesn't burn them. Termites are sometimes called white ants, and that's a little bit of a misnomer because they're not ants, they're different to ants, and they're white. They look kind of similar, but they're not. But they're white because they don't have melanin, which protects them from the sun. So without the mud covering, they would actually get sunburned very easily and die from UV exposure. Much like how if you've got very pale skin, you have to put sunscreen on to protect yourself from the sun. It's very, very fantastic. It's not often that you get to see the inside of a tree that's been eaten by termites.
So we just had 2 African wildcats walk right up to us here. That's why I'm sitting still. No, no, there were no African wildcats. But what is really interesting, at these big trees, one reason, I know they are aliens, but one reason why I've been checking them, this area is actually very, very, very good for African wildcats because it forms such dense thickets, and it's such good cover for them. And what we found while we were walking around, Darby's been helping me, while we've been walking around checking these trees, we actually found something that could have been related to African wildcat, but I'm not sure. I'm like in two minds about it now. But if you look on this branch, right, and we are handheld, so it is a little bit difficult here. I'm just going to move that dead one back over there. Look on this stump over here. You see the hair there? You got it, Davy? Yep. See the hair on that stump? And then there's this tiny little feather, which you can see as well. And it's actually a very, very beautiful little feather with little spots on it. And then there's another feather over here as well. So initially what I thought, and I was hoping, because we know these cats use these trees a lot, I was hoping that, well, maybe it was an African wildcat that had caught a bird, and then it actually brought it up here to feed on it. And they do. They take the kills into trees. You know, if they catch something close to a tree like this, they'll take it up there. And then this could have been like the hairs from under the neck, maybe getting caught in here. But in hindsight, and this is kind of the deduction part, when you look at this tree over here, you know, a cat would have to come up the bottom and then through this tangled mass of branches to get to over here to eat it. But actually, this is a perfect perch for a bird of prey. So it's got nice king and flying lines over here. You know, your landing, your approach. You land over here. Check that everyone's safe, and then you start eating your prey. And I think this is probably actually more likely to be some kind of rodent hair as opposed to an African wildcat. And that would also explain it, if it is a raptor that landed here, why you've got, because this feather is from something else, this one is a dove. I must actually, I'll figure that one out. Just give me a bit of time with that spot and it'll be quite diagnostic. But so you've got three different species. You've got a dove, another a passerine, little perching bird, and probably a mouse or something. So I'm going to go with a raptor on this case, not an African wildcat. But it's fun thinking about it as well.
We're also doing a little bit of birding around this waterhole. We left those Cokie Franklins, they moved off into the grass. And, I mean, this is the largest waterhole that we have in this area. And both Owen and I are always so surprised at the lack of mammal life around here. And I don't know if we're just timing it wrong, but I think the mammals that come down here to drink, because of the surrounding area being so dense, it makes it quite unsafe for them. And so they might just come down, have a quick drink, turn and head straight back towards where they came from. And so the only mammals that we have, we've got those Egyptian goose that are in frame, and then we've got some hippos that are a little bit further to the right of them. And besides those two hippos, there's no other mammal life that I can see around here. You can see that one on the left hand side is actually resting its chin on the back of the other one. And that one on the left hand side looks like it is much, much bigger. I mean, the nostrils, just the whole jaw structure just seems like it's ginormous compared to the one on the right hand side. So it looks like it's the male, who's the territorial bull for this waterhole, on the left, and then the female on the right. We'll spend a few more minutes and see if we have another mammal coming down to drink. Otherwise, Owen and I might continue on.
Oh, sorry, we just missed showing you the cutest warthogs. They are so hilarious. Oh, we're going to get another look. Unfortunately, we had to leave the leopard, Shudulu. There was a very busy sighting. We had to give the other vehicle space, so we've moved out of the area. But there is a brief glimpse of our two warties running through the bush, now hiding behind that tree. Pumbas with their tails erect, ears flat back as they run through the grassland. when I was a young warthog. Rating out of 10, please. Trent, you asked, why are warthogs so skittish? Well, warthogs are skittish because they are high on the menu of our predators. Leopard love them, lion love them. They must be very tasty. And I suppose also their habits. They tend to burrow in termite mounds often, for prolonged periods in the same mound. And I suppose predators kind of know if they wait long enough, they should be able to find one. Catch it as it's on its way back to its burrow, or maybe in the morning when it exits. Leopard are known for waiting for hours next to a warthog burrow, waiting for them to emerge before pouncing on them. So I guess for that reason, they are always on the lookout for what may be trying to eat them. But it's not only warthog, most prey species out here are quite skittish. But I do know what you mean. Warthog always seem like they're looking around, running. They don't want to stand still and look at you for too long. They think something's up, not to be trusted. Roshni, you gave me a 20 out of 10. That is very kind. I don't even think my mother would have given me such a high score. But I will keep singing then. You've inspired me.
Amazing singing there, Dave. We have some rhinos. No singing this side, but a couple of beautiful white rhinos. And just this whole backdrop and scenery where we are here is just so incredible. So you'll see the big one on the left that's closest to us will be the mother. Then just on the right, the smaller one will be her calf. And the one at the back, I'm trying to have a look. The big muddy one at the back. I think it might be a big bull, a big male. That might be following behind the female and her young one. It's a little bit hard to see when the grass is so long. But it's amazing how they actually almost blend into the grass. They just look like big rocks. Such a cool sighting right here though. They're just slowly moving up, actually almost straight towards us or towards the road up ahead of us, which is quite nice. Now that youngster, just judging by where it comes up to on the mother and the size of that little horn in the front, I would guess is probably in the region of about a year old. So that's quite big, hey? For only 1 year old, that is a big animal. You can see she's still very aware. She probably won't be able to see us just because her eyesight is not so great, but with me talking and the wind, I think heading in her direction from us, she can probably smell us and hear us. And she's just not threatened obviously by us. She's just carrying on with her day, making use of this last hour or so of light to squeeze in as much grazing as possible before the night comes. At which time I'm sure she's just going to find somewhere to sleep. They really are just such ancient animals. And it's amazing just to watch them out in this Beautiful big open grassland. Marley necks, no, they are very, very solid. The horns is completely made up of keratin, and it's just very, very compressed keratin, so it's very hard actually, and solid all the way through. And when we dehorn now, it's normally just a short little piece that they cut off. But when we first did the dehornings and there was a whole horn coming off, they are really, really heavy as well. But that's a good question, because you would think, it's obviously quite a heavy thing to have on the edge of your head. But if you look just behind their head, kind of between their shoulder blade and their head, so on their neck, there's a really big hump. And that's a hump that is just full of muscle that they use to obviously keep that, to be able to hold the head up. And also because they always have their head low to the ground while they're feeding, they obviously need good muscles in their head to be able to do that, and to be able to swing their head from side to side while they eat as well. You'll see that male's sneaking closer and closer and closer, but I think he's going to still keep his distance. Sammy, you're asking how long these rhinos live for. A white rhino, well, or black rhino for that matter, can live up to about 40 years or so in the wild. So that's a really long time. With this little young one only being a year old, he or she has got a long life ahead of it. I can't see if it's a boy or a girl, that little young one. But either way, this would be a really, really amazing habitat for it. Really perfect spot for it to grow up. But 40 years is a long, long time. I think the only other big mammal out here that can outlive a rhino is an elephant, which will live up to 60, 65 even. Angie, this little young one, so as I mentioned, it's about a year old. And what will happen is he will be with her until she's almost ready to have her next calf. So could be relatively soon that she might mate again, maybe in the next 6 months or so that she might mate again. And when she does obviously fall pregnant, she's got a very long gestation period of about 16 months. So that's very, very long. And then, a couple of months before she gives birth, maybe 2 months before she gives birth, that's when she's going to push this other little young one away and then start concentrating on her new calf that's coming. But then this poor little young one is going to feel quite rejected and alone. And often what they do is they will try and find another mother with a calf and join up with them, just for a bit of safety in numbers. A little group. They'll find a little group of rhinos if they can, and just kind of latch on there until they're brave enough to go off by themselves. So it's quite a interesting little life story for these rhinos, isn't it? Becca Wheat, so white rhino especially are quite social. They're often in little groups with females and their young ones. The most I've seen is about 12 or so. No, it was more even. I think it was 14 or something. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, more than 10 in a group. That's the most I've seen. But then a big dominant bull, which is probably like the one that's following this female, he's normally off by himself. He'll be a territorial bull with a territory to protect, and he's not as social. Sorry, I've just noticed some very nice birds in the road. Sorry, Marcel, can you see just on the right-hand side of the road there? We're just going to move the camera over there. Have a look at these birds. Very interesting. This is called an African hoopoe. Beautiful. Look at that black and white barring on the wing. And then that little crest on the head with that beautiful like brown color. So we're going to take in this beautiful afternoon light a little bit longer and let you carry on with your safari this afternoon.
I have been waiting to show you all this bird for a few days, and it just keeps flying off every single time. It's a woolly neck stork. And it's beautiful, but for some reason, every time we try to frame this bird up for you, it just will not stay still. It's because another vehicle drove past. I wonder if we just sit tight, or even just 1 minute, if it will return to the water. They are water birds after all. We're getting ready to head back to the Nkuhumas. We're just in a bit of a lineup at the minute. Come back, stork. I'm not sure if you all got a beautiful view of that stork, but it's quite an unusual one. We don't see it too often here. And it's a really, really gorgeous water bird, strikingly black and white. And this is my third attempt today to show you. I tried twice yesterday. Never mind, we shall proceed. Now, the Nkuhumas are really not too far away from here, but we're in a bit of a lineup, so we're just going to go in a different direction and see what else we can come across. Okay, so hopefully that lineup will be done soon, and we can be back with our sleepy lions.
Well, we've just come onto the Simbambili property and stopped at a little mud wallow known as One-Eyed Pan. Just enjoying a bit of birding, I believe. It's always good to stop and enjoy a bit of bird life. We often overlook them. But if you really sit and enjoy watching birds, then you kind of get a greater appreciation for them and what they're doing. They're always so busy. He's a little three-banded plover, missioning around the mud's edge, looking for any snack they can find. Generally invertebrates, both on land and in the water, little insects. I love these pans, these mud wallows. There's something interesting about them that is often overlooked, and that is how they form and what happens as they develop. And what's interesting is these actually just carry on getting deeper and deeper, bigger and bigger. And that's because if you look at all this mud, if we zoom out just a little bit, you'll see there's so many tracks around the water's edge in the mud. Elephant and rhino and buffalo and warthog and all sorts of things will come and roll in here, get covered in mud, and carry that mud away as it dries and falls off their body somewhere else in the bush. And what that's doing is it's deepening the mud wallow. So this may have started as a very shallow little divot in the ground that got rained on, and that mud was carried away, and so on and so forth for many seasons. And this will just continue to grow and get deeper and deeper. Perhaps be a little dam one day, but for now, just a mud wallow. And a very smelly mud wallow at that. End of the winter. It's not the cleanest. And on that note, TaylorMade, is that your name? Hope I got that right. You've asked, do animals get sick from drinking this water? And that's a good question. As you can see, it looks more like pea soup than clean drinking water. But no, they don't get sick. They have very strong immune systems out here. Perhaps domestic livestock or a human would get sick, but animals out here are very resilient. Unless, of course, there is an infection or certain bacteria that could make the animal sick that's waterborne, then they would get sick, but just the fact that it's dirty and muddy and mucky won't make them sick. Actually a very good spa treatment. If it was a nice hot day, one can be enticed to jump into the mud and roll around. People pay good money for these sorts of spa treatments. Jacqueline, you asked, do I have any idea why it's called a one-eyed pan? And I don't, I suppose. I don't know, best guess it's nice and round, and you can't see it now, but if I look around me, it's kind of like a little round clearing in the bush with this little mud wallow in the middle. Perhaps that reminded someone of an eye once upon a time when they named it. Look down here on the water's edge, right here in this mud. How many tracks are here? This is such an important area for animals of all sorts that come down here at night. Lots of activity here, even though it's still muddy and mucky. It's a very important water source. I'm just going to unplug and walk down to the water and see if we can see any interesting tracks. Dallas, you've asked, do we get quicksand in South Africa? And I've never heard of any. I don't know anything about quicksand. I've heard of like quick mud almost, and I've even experienced it before. Even mud wallows like this, if you walk right into the center, sometimes you can really sink down quite deep. But Dallas, quicksand, I've never heard of. Heard of it in South America, but not in South Africa. Maybe someone else knows. Especially in the winter time, what I'm doing now is I'm just having a look around the edge to see if anything has come down to drink of interest. I'm unplugged, so if something exciting happens, Craig can shout at me, but I'm just having a quick look to see if there's maybe any leopard tracks. There was a male leopard that we saw this morning walking down in this direction, so I was hoping maybe we could spot where he came down to have a drink, but so far just hyena, warthog, impala, all sorts of birds. You can even see a little mongoose track. Super cool. You spend enough time here, you'll see just about everything come down and drink, from the smallest to the biggest. What a lovely afternoon. We're gonna move on, see if we can pick up on anything else. Enjoy the rest of our afternoon safari.
We're also having a really lovely afternoon. We've come to a dam. It's called Leopard Dam. Now, we do know why this one's called Leopard Dam. It's because it's place where we used to see lots of leopards. We're still searching for now, though. And these lovely weavers' nests that are abandoned at the moment, also above the dam. In the summertime, when the birds are all in their mating, or in the spring when they're in their mating colors and behaviors, they'll be making more nests there. But the leopard dam is very, very beautiful this afternoon. Golden. Return has asked when the weavers return. The weavers return when... I'm not going to try and fit any more returns in that sentence. So the weavers will come back. They're around at the moment. They're moving all over the place. But they mostly return when it's time for breeding again. You'll see them making their nests at this dam. We'll have all sorts of different weavers. The red-billed buffalo weavers particularly are making lots of nests at the moment. Well, there are lots of nests around, but they're busy moving around in flocks at the moment, just eating the grass and preparing themselves for when the springtime comes, and they'll start mating again. See, the dam is very quiet, very beautiful and picturesque. But around about November time, we'll see lots of the birds starting, or maybe even earlier, September, October. We'll see lots of the birds starting to make their nests again, as it gets more and more abundant with the food that they eat and the seeds and all sorts of things. And of course, all the migrant birds also arrive back by then, ready for the southern African summer, avoiding the cold winter where there's not much food in Europe for the most part. Just look at that reflection. Isn't that gorgeous? The soft reflection of that. There's just the tiniest hint of a breeze just dappling the water. Very beautiful. Sometimes it's so still here that this is like a mirror, and you wouldn't be able to tell which was the sky and which was the water. And right now we can just hear Cape turtle doves cooing in the distance. Actually had a squirrel a moment ago that was making a bit of a noise, but I don't sense that predatorial presence. But we'll wait here a bit longer and see what else might come down to Leopard Dam.
We've got some tracks, some very fresh female leopard tracks. Now, I'm wondering if they could be Shadulus. David had Shadulu, but of course I think she's gone missing now. No one can find her. Now, these are very fresh, and the reason I wanted to point this track out is because I want to give you a size comparison. I'm probably advertising Vaseline here, but look at that. Look how small a female leopard track really is. Now, you imagine, I think in my head, to be much bigger. You really do, but it's so small, especially in comparison to the males. And many of us, well, we get asked all the time, how do you know the difference between a male track and a female track? Because essentially it's the same shape. I'll put my hand next to it too, but I think really, I'm going to come in, Theo. The Vaseline does the trick. My hand completely goes past this. It's a very, very small track here. You can see the 4 front pads and then the little back pad at the back. Female leopard. And the males are so much bigger, you can't mistake it. And if you do mistake it, then possibly that's slightly worrying. I just wanted to give you that size comparison. Now, I drove this road this morning and there was no tracks. So these are very, very fresh in the space of the afternoon. And if they are Shadulus, then she's pushing very far east. We're on Weaver's Nest now, so this means that Shadulu's pushing very, very far. As she goes a little bit further, more further east, she's going to meet Tandy's territorial border. I'm just going to grab my Vaseline. It's rather important that I have that. I get very dry lips out here, you know. So yes, she's going to bump into Tandy and they're going to have a sort of territorial boundary clash. Kalamba, I really cannot comment on Kalamba's movements at the moment. So I think that's Shadulu. I could be wrong. Unfortunately, the tracks don't have a name tag. I wish they did. But if they are Shadulus, then she's really, really pushing far east into Djuma. And that means she is the new... Well, we can't call her the Duchess of the West anymore, can we? She'll be very much the Duchess of the East. Tandy to this side. Kalamba to the north. Sabi to the south. And that's how all the female leopards fit into this wonderful, dynamic sort of jigsaw puzzle. Shadulu, Tandy, Kalamba, Sabi, and then Kuchava. And I think Kara Shadulu's daughter is now taken over that sort of western sector. Simbambinu, Arathusa. So they're very, very fresh. I will just follow them just in case they are a different female leopard, but I don't think so. I think they are Shadulus. So I'm still waiting on my standby for the lions, but that's a good thing because when it gets cooler, they will move. And of course, feel free at any time, everyone, to send in your questions or your comments. Make us laugh. Hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or at FC on YouTube and Twitch. You're welcome to ask us anything or almost anything. I'm just trying to do a loop. I'm going to follow these, see how far I get, and then head back to the lions. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Shouldn't have said that. Who has the highest survival rate? Leopards or lions? That's a tricky one. Because believe it or not, it actually differs from the areas. So in the area of the Kruger, where we are now, the Sabi Sands, the sort of mortality rate for lion cubs is 50%. But as you go up to the Serengeti, it increases to 67%. And over in the Masai Mara, I'm sure it's even... Oh, hello. Well, I feel we have a ginormous roadblock. You be careful. There's lions nearby. So yes, the Masai Mara is even higher. So it depends on the area, but normally leopards and lions are slightly the same at around 50%. But because leopards haven't got the security of the pride, they tend to be a little bit higher. So I wonder...
Oh, come on, they're going to lose it, guys. We're going to lose it. African wildcat, on a kill, African wildcat, on a kill. We're just going to go a little bit closer. This is insane, and this is thanks to one of our best guides on the property. Kyle is sitting right next to us over here. This is insane. We're just going to go forward here. Kyle, you're a legend, man. That's the legend right there. Okay, I'm going to go for that. This is nuts. I'm just going to pull forward a little bit. I don't want to push this cat. In fact, let's not even move. Let's just wait. It's going to come out in the open on the right-hand side. I am over the moon. This is nuts. Okay. The problem is there is a sad side to this. And just, you might all want to sit down and just take a breath here, because what it's caught is one of the rock star meerkats. That's one of the meerkats that we've been watching now for the past 2 months. So that is one of the rock stars. We don't know which one it is yet. We don't know who it is. But all I know is that that is an African wildcat on a kill. This is insane. This is insane. I am just utterly speechless. This is almost certainly... Carl, you're a legend. Carl is... We'll go back to Carl now. Yes, good job, my man. Good job. So this is almost certainly the same African wildcat whose tracks we looked at this morning. And in fact, this is the exact area that Davy and I were up and down and up and down and up and down this morning looking for this wildcat. So yes, I am... Okay, it's sad about the meerkat. It really is sad about the meerkat. But that is just... I'm just going to pull forward a little bit. Oh, my word. Yes. Carl, we're coming back now. We're just going to go forward a fraction here. Yowzers. You never know what you're going to get, guys? Okay, I'm just going to go forward. This is so awesome, Dawn says, and it really is. I mean, this is so super exciting. So he's gone into that thicket there, and I cannot see him, but he's inside that thicket there somewhere. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. to watch it carrying that meerkat across that open grassland like that is just next level stuff there. Wow, 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 wow. And of course, the whole thing there is we'll pop back to those meerkats tomorrow morning and just see exactly who was the weakest link. Oh my goodness. What a sighting, eh? That's a good one, guys. Unreal. Jetpack Boy says so many emotions, and you have no idea. You have no idea. Yes, you know, I put like heart, life, and soul into these kind of things. And if people really want to try to see something, I'll put everything I can into it. And you just can't be everywhere. And then you get like this amazing team working out, and guys like Kyle that spend their entire life just devoted to this kind of stuff. And if it's not for these guys at work here, I mean, to get sightings like this would be almost impossible. So kudos to Kyle. Kyle, good man. And yeah, I'm just absolutely blown away by this, man. And I'm so glad that everyone has had the patience to spend this amount of time with us, because we really did put in a lot of time. Hopefully it's not going to be the last wildcat sighting we have, but it was certainly an impressive sighting by any standards.
That does sound like it was pretty epic. We've also got a predator who seems to have caught something. It looks like a Varro's eagle owl. In fact, it is a Varro's eagle owl. You can tell because of those incredible pink eyelids. I know it's not easy to tell because basically the sun is directly behind it. But Seb's done an amazing job to be able to get a bit of a picture here. But it's caught something in its talons. I don't know if you can see that. There's this fluffy thing that's on the branch underneath it. We can't tell what it is from this distance, but it definitely seems like it's caught something. Maybe a squirrel? Maybe that's a squirrel's tail? I can't tell. But we were sitting by the dam and we heard all these birds alarm calling, and we thought, let's go and check it out. And what a win, because it's so important to check out the alarm calls. This is the largest owl that you find in the whole of southern Africa, one of the very largest owls in the world, in fact. And yeah, it's caught something. So it must have just caught something now, or maybe not, I don't know. Normally they're sort of sleeping during the day. I'm just going to try and find in my bird book exactly how big it is, because it is quite a huge owl. I don't know if any of you have seen one in real life, but they are 62 centimeters tall from tail tip to the top of its head. So you can see how far it was. It was quite interesting as we were driving. I just saw the silhouette, and it just looked like Batman. It just had these two little ears, and it was just sitting upright. And I just thought, I knew what it was immediately. It's such a distinctive silhouette when you're driving out in the bush. It just had its two little ear tufts up. And those little ear tufts are not ears at all, actually, or eyelashes. They are little feathers that they raise up in order to try and look a little bit more like a broken piece of branch. Just breaks up their outline a little bit so they don't look so rounded. But it becomes very, there you can see them, very, very cool little eyebrow tufts. Looks like it's got angry eyebrows. Anyway, so... Oh, goodness. I don't know why I made myself laugh there. Anyway, it weighs just about 2 kilograms. It weighs about 2 kilograms, which is really heavy for a bird. And it's 62 centimeters tall, which means the wingspan is probably also quite large, but not as big as some other birds of prey. Owls are quite interesting. They've got very broad, round wings, which have soft feathers. So even this very huge owl, when it flies out of a tree in order to catch prey, it won't make a sound. And that's really important, because most owls have a fairly flat face. As you see this one when it turns sideways, it's got quite a flat face, not elongated like other birds. There's a lot of birds flying around it trying to mob it that it's looking at right now. And it's got ears that are just placed on the edges of that very flat face, which they are using mostly to hear the prey moving around in the undergrowth. And so when they fly down to catch them, they can actually still hear them as they get closer and closer, and they reach out with their talons, which is really amazing. So owls are silent hunters, and they use eyesight when they can, but if it's very dark, they'll use their hearing to hear the prey scuttling around in the undergrowth. Oh, it's giving us that stare now. It's being Batman. I love how quickly it can turn its head when it spots something or hears something disturbing it. I'm going to wait a bit longer with this bird to see if we can maybe identify what exactly it has caught.
Well, we found Blondie. He was here all along. Mohawk's snoozing behind us, and Blondie is snoozing right in front of us. Sorry, I'm just directing another vehicle. So he was here all along, probably flat as a pancake, and the rest of the pride are starting to wake up. But that buffalo we showed you just before, well, when you last saw us, they're heading right in this direction. They're literally just at the drainage line beside these lions. So these buffalo will have to be very, very careful, or they are going to end up, one of them, maybe the Nkahuma's new dinner. Isn't he magnificent, Blondie? Such a handsome, handsome lion. Now that the other... That is too sweet. I wonder if we should try and reposition. What do you think, Theo? Should we? Eagle-eyed Theos. Ah, they're all up. I think we should go round. Let's reposition so we can actually see the pride now that another vehicle has moved out. They're all grooming, contagious behaviour, yawning, more contagious behaviour. Yawning is said to be related to empathy. When you study yawning in animals, especially primates, it relates to empathy. I'm just going to go around here very carefully. Oh. Ah! Hello, everybody. Now, one of the cubs has got a really bad eye, and I want to show it to you. I think this is a cub with the bad eye here. Right here, Theo. I think that's the one with the bad eye. Ian, you're asking, do lions have cheeks? I just want to check that that's what you were asking me. Yeah. Oh, no, that's not the one with the bad eye. One of them has a really, really bad left eye, and it's slightly worrying. I noticed it the other night as well. No, it's not that one, sorry. Oh, it's this one, Theo. It's this one, the one that's doing the toilet right next to our vehicle. Here we go. Something's wrong with his eye. You see that? Just want to get a bit of a closer look to see if it's damaged. What is this one doing? He's up on his hind legs. Cheeks, as in human cheeks, I think you're asking. That's a bizarre question. Not entirely sure I know if they have cheeks. Of course, they have this area under the eye. They're mammals. So I would imagine you could call that a cheek. I am really not sure about that question. Everyone's getting far more alert now. I think it's going to be time to get on the move soon, which is lovely. I love seeing the entire pride on the move. Okay, I've just done some research. Cheek constitutes the area of the face below the eyes between the nose and mouth. So yes, Ian, I guess they do have cheeks. But they're also cheeky and very naughty. Oh, look at the patches on the back there. This cub is the worst. Oh. This is one of the really young cubs that's been savaged by mange. Oh, shame. Susie, you're asking about the mange, and sorry, there's just another vehicle navigating into this sighting. It's slightly noisy. It's a mite. It's a parasitic mite that actually lives in the environment, and it's a type of arachnid, so it's in the same family as ticks and spiders and the likes. So it's in the environment already. They exist as arachnids out in the environment, and therefore, just like ticks, they will latch onto the animals, and because it's highly contagious, they breed, they lay their eggs, they bury into hair follicles. That's why that's why it spreads between the pride very, very quickly, because they're in such close contact with one another. You see this, they lie next to each other, they're constantly touching one another. That's why it spreads really, really easily between them. And the mite itself is called Scarcoptes scabi, and that's where scabies comes from in humans, because that's the actual Latin name of the mite itself. So it's in the environment already, and it's very, very contagious. It's found in domesticated animals, livestock, mammals like lions, leopards. Sticks and stones, I don't think mange is the reason for the damage to this eye. Now I'm trying to find out which cub it is again. As soon as we spot it, we'll put it on for you. Not all cubs are looking at the camera, I'm afraid. But it's very weepy, it's oozy. There was some sort of liquid or maybe pus that was oozing out of the eye the other night. So I don't think that has anything to do with mange, because with mange, it's a mite that buries into the hair follicles. So I really don't think that would cause weepage of the eye. I think it's just some sort of injury. But it looked quite severe the other night. But don't worry, these animals are very, very resilient. And I'll try and find exactly which cub it is to show you. But no, I really don't think it has anything to do with mange. Oh, we're all very awake now. There's this little one coming in front of us now. That's the one with this most severe case of mange, I think, from what I've witnessed. The smells in this area are rather unpleasant, but we're going to sit here and enjoy all these interactions between the Nkuhumas.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family. WildEarth relies on support from viewers like
Zebra out here in the Simbambili open area. How exquisite is that coloration in the golden light of the setting sun. I'm going to ask Craig to zoom in on its backside. To the right of its tail I see a bit of a scar there. What's interesting about that, you can see right in the middle there, there's a scar. What's interesting about that is that as beautiful and peaceful as they look, zebra can be a very dangerous prey species. We were talking about prey earlier with the warthog and how they're always so skittish. Of course, zebra are very tasty, and lion would love to hunt them, or even hyena, even wild dog in this area. They have to be very careful. Leopard have an extremely powerful kick. And generally a lion will always jump on it from the back because it's chasing it. But if it's not careful, those hind hooves of a zebra can really deliver a serious blow, easily breaking a lion's jaw and deflecting its attack. Did you see what just happened? The steenbok was hiding in the grass and the zebra startled it, and they both got a big fright. That was quite funny. Very interesting. That scar bears testament to the fact that that zebra was once upon a time attacked by a hyena or a lion or something, but because of its sharp and powerful kicks, it got away.
We have been looking for these lions for a while. They've moved off of the carcass, off of the last position that they were at. We heard these elephants going crazy, and we followed the noise, and we've just seen this whole pride coming across the river. So we're going to have a really gorgeous view of them walking with the sun behind them. The elephants were giving them a hard time and trying to chase them as much as they could. But by the looks of it, they're kind of at the distance that they feel safe. And so it seems like those elephants are just letting the lions cross the river. Oh, and there's the tiny ones. And up until now, we had only just seen the sub-adults. So we think that the mothers might be a little bit further ahead of us. And these youngsters are just way too curious with what's going on with these elephants. And see that one there, there's a couple that are absolutely fixated on these elephants. There's a young one that I'm sure they're interested in. But that mother's been giving them a hard time. And as soon as the elephant gets up and walks towards the lions just give them extra space. But this is such a beautiful scene to see them crossing over this beautiful river. There's some baboons that are alarm calling at the lions now. So it will be quite interesting to see what will happen with what happens now after the elephants have crossed. Are the lions going to continue on following the mothers? Or what are they going to do? It'll be quite cool to see what happens, because it just looks like there's the one adult female, and she's the one with the youngest cubs. And by the sounds of it, with those baboons alarm calling, I'm sure that the adult females must have gone off to hunt away from the rest of the pride. And they're heading straight down towards a waterhole. The whole pride is literally watching that herd of elephants. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lions, all just watching the elephants as they walk up that bank. And that shouting noise in the background is coming from directly behind us. So those would be the baboons that have seen the mothers of the pride. And so for now at least, the hunt in this area for the females probably isn't going to be a good option. So they might either return back to the youngsters, or they'll try and cover some ground and try to get out of the area. And so the only ones that there's a chance that the males might have gone with the females, but I doubt it. So the males might be somewhere around where we left them this morning, just resting up and digesting those really big full bellies they had. And then maybe now that they're separated from the pride, they could move off and start start vocalizing and marking their territory throughout the night. It's really cool because we can't actually see the elephants from here, but all you need to do is just have a look at the lions, and they'll point us in exactly the direction of where those elephants are coming from. And there's a young male. And just look at how much better he's walking on that leg. There's still a slight limp, but he's putting all of his weight on that leg. So that's amazing to see that recovery over the last 4 months, and he's doing so well.
Well, I'm glad he is getting better. On our end of the spectrum out here in the bush in Simbambili, we have just stopped to enjoy these wildebeest as they kick up dust while the sun sets on another day in Africa. What a spectacular scene. Let's just take this all in. The sun is setting on the Drakensberg Mountains way over in the distance. We are actually right on the perimeter of the Greater Kruger National Park here, on the western end of Simbambili. If you listen carefully, I don't know if you'll hear it on ambient, but I can even hear cowbells a few kilometers away. It's such a still night that the sound is traveling, and those cowbells are from the community right across the way. It's actually a lovely reminder of how, through conservation, we have been able and become able to co-inhabit with these wild areas. Of course, there's a fence around the boundary of the Greater Kruger, but inside there are no internal fences, so animals can move freely. But just another good example of how humans and animals can work together for the greater good.
Franklin has just discovered the lions and is not very happy, to say the least. Imagine walking into a pride of... That vocalization was from the cubs. Can you believe it? That's how the cubs sound. Unbelievable. There's lots of vehicles around. I do apologize about the additional noise. Oh, isn't that lovely? Now, the reason that... Oh, Mohawk's awake. Mohawk's coming. Hopefully we'll be able to see him in just a minute. He's behind the vegetation now. But the males are so tender and lovely towards these cubs because they believe that they're the fathers. Who knows which... Oh, no, don't bite there, cub. That could be a disaster. Oh, how sweet. This is really sweet, everyone. Dear Mohawk, what do you want from Miss Purple Eye? But lionesses are promiscuous, with not only the males within a coalition, but they will even mate with separate coalitions if they can. And again, this is to confuse paternity. Make all the males think that they are the father, then all of them will protect the offspring. So Blondie probably thinks he's the father, because he knows that he's mated with the lionesses. Mohawk probably thinks that he's the father, but of course there can only be one father. Now it's most likely the Avoca Coalition offspring, because they're the only coalition in this area that the Nkomas were seen mating with. But until you get a paternity test, you don't actually know who the father is. But the reason these boys are being so tender with the cubs is because they believe that they are the father. They've sowed their wild oats and it's been a success, and their bloodline will continue, and that's all that matters for a male lion, is their own bloodline. Alice, you're asking, do the older ones bully the younger ones? I'll just get Rebecca to repeat that question and I'll answer it for you. Yes, do the older ones bully the younger ones? Yes, slightly. Not bullying in the same way as hyenas, but they're all boisterous. We've just been watching them wrestle, and they can be very aggressive with one another. And yes, the older ones, because of their size, they will absolutely shove the younger ones off. Now, is Mohawk sitting on top of Blondie's head? I'm not sure what these two boys are up to. Yes, I think he's grooming Blondie's face. How sweet. This pair are always together. But yes, Ridgenos boys, the two biggest, belong to Ridgenos, and they are, of course, the oldest, the largest, and they will shove off the younger ones over milk and meat. But in saying that, so do the lionesses and so do the males. Lion prides at a carcass can be very, very aggressive. It can actually be quite upsetting to see. So there's lots going on here. I'm going to sit here and enjoy every moment.
The cubs are just about to come out of the grass. Look at them crossing the river and getting pestered by one of the older cubs. And so this is such a good example as to what Lauren was talking about a bit earlier. And that's just being annoying. Got the tail. That is just so cool to see them crossing the river like this. And I think that one's got its tail curled up like that, so the older sub-adult doesn't keep biting it. And it looks like it's following the mother. The mother's moved behind this bush, so we're not sure where it is, but it must have settled down very close by. So she's still here, and then that one there is one of the sub-adult males, and then directly below him, I think, is actually one of the females. And so it could have just been a couple of the females that decided to go off away from the pride for a bit. But we do have a new addition to the pride for this afternoon at least. And quite typical, arriving very, very late onto the scene. One of the male lions of the pride has just arrived, and he's found himself a beautiful spot, and he's just sitting up. So that young male's almost getting confused. But look at him. He is in such a good position. He's looking over his pride. And I'm sure he's not wanting to move, but he probably is just thinking that, you know, there's a good chance of food tonight, and he's not the one that we followed this morning, and so he doesn't have nearly as full a belly as his brother. And so the brother might have even kept him off of the carcass. But this is really nice to see that the whole pride is slowly but surely starting to move across the river, and it's just so nice to see them from a distance like this. And they've actually just come onto the bank, and one of the females is walking straight towards us. So stuck in bed, most of the time it will be brothers, or at least males from the same generation within the pride. And so within this litter of 8, there are 3 males spread out between 4 different females, and they'll leave together. There are very rare occurrences of unrelated males, completely unrelated males, joining up and forming an alliance or a coalition. And so it could happen. I mean, the prime example is this young male who's with the pride still. If he leaves and he goes by himself, he knows that it's much easier to take over a pride if there's more than one. And look what she's doing now. So right in front of the vehicle, doing exactly what a male would do. Scent marking, scratching, getting that scent onto her back feet. And the pride is coming straight towards us. So there's one at the back over there. But then there's a couple on the right-hand side of the vehicle too. I wasn't expecting them to come up this way. This is amazing. And if I switch on the vehicle, I might startle the whole pride. And so I'll just let them walk past us and see if you can listen to the grass moving. Just come up. You can see that. We'll see if we get to show you, but that leg looks very deformed, that back left leg, but he's walking on it really nicely, especially around the knee and the hip. But he's starting to rebuild some muscle on that leg, and he is very easily following the rest of the pride. This is incredible. And I think that was the majority of them. There's just a few more. There's a female with her 2 youngest cubs, and she might have taken a longer route around.
Zebra and impala. It was a beautiful sunset. And now the sun is gone. Nocturnal animals are going to start moving. almost time to put on the spotlight and start looking for eyes. Maybe we get to see a leopard on the way back home. It's amazing how quickly the temperature drops. Craig and I had to just stop and put on our jackets. As that sun goes down, you can feel it dropping a few degrees. But not long now, spring is on the way. And before you know it, we'll be back to our hot African summer.
So the young cubs are here. They've just got distracted by one of the sub-adults. But the mother's already walked past. Looks like they're getting into a wrestling match now. That is just amazing. So if they've fallen a little bit too far behind the bride, they might just get a little contact call from the mother. But look at that, it looks like that one was calling. Yeah, maybe I'm just going to turn the vehicle because that seat is right in the way. The seat was even blocking my view, but the mother's right behind them. But it does look like the big male lion is coming here too. It just keeps getting better and better and better. Gonna walk up and scent mark against this bush. Look what he does with his head. Oh, no ways. When I watch his tail. Quick little squirt and he's carrying on. Amazing. And in the distance even, I can see the other male lion, the one that we saw, is just about across the river too. So we'll quickly show you him there. There we go. And look at how slowly he's walking. And interesting, he stopped in exactly the same spot that his brother lay down in. And it looks like he's scent marking over his scent. And that is a clear sign of dominance. And it will be interesting. We won't move. And let's see if he does exactly the same thing again. If he walks to the same bush that his brother does and scent marks over it. You might be able to hear the baboon's alarm calling at the whole pride now. But it's amazing. This is pretty much exactly how we started the day, and it's how we're ending it now. It's amazing. This is the one that we were following, and he led us straight towards the pride this morning. And that walk looks a lot more labored than anyone else's. But just look at the size of his front paws. So he's actually stopped, which is interesting, and one of the adult females was walking straight down towards him. Listen. No ways, they might roar. She's gonna roar. It might be a contact call, but I hope it's a roar. Look how beautiful she is. So that little contact call that's going on, no matter how sad it looks, she's just listening out for her family, and she needs to make it nice and soft. Make that call soft because she doesn't want to attract attention, so she knows the pride is close. And the male's gotten up, and it looks like he is hot on her heels. Look at how quickly he's walking compared to when he sat down. So he's coming. We're just going to sit nice and quietly. Remember, the bush that his brother sent marked was just to the left of us, but it looks like he's much more focused on trying to find the female, or at least keep up with her. And the cubs are coming too. This is just crazy. Here come the cubs. Oh, that is just incredible. That has to be one of the best ways to see the sunset, for sure.
Okay, so I'm still buzzing. Sorry, we lost you a little bit earlier there. I'm still absolutely buzzing from what we've just seen. But I'm going to just say something quickly now. For sensitive viewers, you've got about 40 seconds to decide if you want to close your eyes or go run to the kitchen and get something to drink or hide under the blankets. Okay, but before we get to that, I would just like to say a very big and very special happy birthday to Julia Howells. It is her 60th birthday today, and Julia has been following us absolutely religiously, getting up way before 5 o'clock in the mornings to make sure that she's never late. Thank you very, very much. And anyone else out there that is having birthdays today as well, it is just fantastic that you can join us. Okay, sensitive viewers, and I'm not even pulling my punches here. Be warned, don't say we didn't warn you, that I didn't warn you. Okay, so that wildcat caught a meerkat, correct? And we all saw it running off with the meerkat. What we didn't see is that it may have been missing some parts. That is a meerkat head. That is a meerkat head. This is the head of the meerkat that has just been that's just been eaten. How crazy is that, eh? Look at that. Oh my word. So that cat, and we can show you some prints there as well. Not right where the head's lying, because there's a lot of vegetation here, so it's a bit difficult to see the prints over here. But how gruesome is that? So that cat caught one of these meerkats right here, and then it actually spent the time eating the head off. And then it just trotted off to get better cover, and we haven't seen it since. But look at the ants. Now talking about that circle of life, look at the ants already. Yeah, the tongue does look quite big, and it's also quite rough. You can see that as well. The tongue's also quite rough. But what a sighting. Old Darby's doing a good job here. You've missed your calling, eh? But yeah, I hope that wasn't too sensitive for some of you, but nonetheless, and this is probably, not probably, this is one of the meerkats that we've been watching for the past 9 weeks. So we don't know which, it's definitely not the alpha, so this is, I'm going on the denture, on the teeth, on these small teeth. It's almost certainly one of the sub-adults, not one of the adults. Okay, so alpha is fine. The meerkat habituator has actually confirmed already that the alpha with the other 4, because remember there were 6, so it's now the alpha and 4, so they are back at the burrows and they are grooming each other, so everything's now safe and sound. So we are seeing the circle of life here in a big way, eh? Super, super cool. Macabre, but super cool at the same time. So there's a birthday present for those of you who want it. And then over here, it's quite difficult to see, but those of you who are interested in the tracking side of things, there are some lovely, if I can find them now, I had lovely African wildcat tracks. M. Woody says, how come it didn't eat the tongue? There is just so much meat on a meerkat for the size of a wildcat. That's a good food parcel. And remember, the tongue, to get to the tongue, you got teeth, you got jaw bones, the skull, that kind of stuff. So it's probably not even worth that wildcat's effort to go for the tongue to get out that small thing when you've just got so much good meat available. So, but that'll get eaten by something. If a jackal, as an example, had to come trotting past tonight, it would pick that up and walk off with it. Very, very. But I see the ants already having a meal there. And here are some tracks as well. There was actually a lot of activity. The kill took place on the right-hand side of this burrow. I'll just walk over there so you can see. So this is where the scuffle took place over here. But the meerkat actually made it, probably with a wildcat in tow, through the bush on that side. So here's a wildcat track over here. You can see there's a very nice example there. There's a nice example of an African wildcat track. So this is where the actual the incident took place, and then he actually got through this bush, and there's some scuffle marks right through the back over there. And if we walk around the other side, we'll actually see where the drag was, where he took it out. But this wildcat has actually been probably stalked this little group for the whole morning, the whole afternoon. So there's the drag over there. I won't get in the light. I'll go around there. So this is where it dragged it out from here, but pulled it out backwards. So it was inside there, and here's the wildcat tracks over here, reversing out of this. You see there, and then just over here, there's a really nice one there. So then it pulled this meerkat out and trotted off with it, and that's when we came on the scene. Unreal. Unreal.
The most incredible thing happened. They heard the buffalo, finally, the buffalo I was telling you about, and they went off all together. But I don't think it was successful. They're all split now. Different vehicles. I've got different members of the Pride all across this part of the reserve. We've got Blondie and I think Purple Eye here. Looking less than amused. Now, an update, Purple Eye's limping very severely on her back right leg. Can you hear the calls? They're calling one another. So something has happened to Purple Eye's back right. And Blondie's also limping, as he has been for quite a while. So I think this pair are the slow coaches that have got stuck behind. There's a cob around here as well. The entire Pride are here. They're just split. They've all split in completely different directions. There's some up this way, there's some this way, there's some this way. There we go. There's a cup. because they will not be using their eyes anymore to see one another. It will be all through ears and calling. Soft, soft contact calls. They know that each other are in the area. Sorry, they've all heard something. Over here, they all look. They're all very alert. Return trip. I've got the entire pride over here. I'm flashing my lights. Three or four, one male and all the cubs. Copy. Sorry, everyone was looking for the pride, so I had to let them know that we had them all. Wasn't that magical? That was happiness. Absolute happiness. There's still one lioness here, which means I can't follow them just yet. You really can't split a pride. It's important that you don't get your vehicle in between. This is Purple Eye, and if she stands up, you'll be able to see the extent of her injury. I think this is Purple Eye. I got a bit lost in that big pile of lions. Wasn't that lovely? Now, round trip, sorry about that. You were asking if all the cubs survived to adulthood, would they be one big pride or would they split? No, so for most males in the animal kingdom, leopards, lions, hyenas, males disperse, and the reason they disperse is because they need to find their sort of own setup, their own coalition when you're referring to lions, and they need to find their own mates. It can be brothers, it can be cousins, it can be relatives, but they need to take on their own territory. If you think about it, the boys from this pride are under very much the sort of... Yes, Purple Eye, look, look, look. She's struggling to keep up. I don't know what could possibly have happened. Okay, I'm just trying to direct another vehicle. They've all gone that way. So yes, the males disperse, but the females, absolutely, they can stick together. So I'm going to try and turn my vehicle around so we can catch up with the pride.
So, the sighting has taken an unexpected turn because these lions continued walking up the riverbank and they got to the point where we are right in front of one of the andBeyond camps. We're right in front of the andBeyond and Ngala tented camp. And they were walking down in this direction, and it actually, by the looks of things, so there you might just be able to see the pool and also one of the massage areas, I think. And it looks like they've actually come into this point and they've turned around and they're walking in the opposite direction again. There's a couple of them that are still lying around. But it seems, I don't know what's going on, because they walked up here and then they turned and they walked in exactly the opposite direction. And so they might just be trying to move around camp. and continue on towards a nice big waterhole that's just maybe about 200 or 300 meters away from camp. So Roxanne, it's usually around about 6 months old. We would say they're pretty much fully weaned. It will sometimes be a little bit older than that, so maybe between 7 and 8 months, but by 6 months they tend to pretty much be exclusively eating meat. You'll see the mother, when they try and get suckle, becomes quite aggressive, and she will try to deny them the possibility to drink, and so she'll be trying to kick them in the face. She'll get up and move, she'll growl, she'll snarl, and so that is pretty much the age that they get weaned. And it's been such an incredible afternoon again. It sounds like all of the reserves have been producing some wonderful animal sightings, and like always we'll be here same place, same time tomorrow, so at 6:30 in the morning. And they're calling. Norways, listen. These lions obviously knew that it was the end of the show, and they wanted to put on a big surprise for us. That was incredible.